Have you ever wondered if the way you've been touching yourself might actually be working against your health now that you're over 60? I know that sounds shocking, but as a urologist who has spent over 30 years caring for men's health, I need to tell you something most doctors never will, especially not in plain language. The way you masturbate after 60 could be damaging your nerves, reducing your sensitivity, harming your circulation, and even affecting your prostate without you realizing it. And the worst part, almost no one talks about it. I'm Dr. Mohit Khera, a men's health specialist and professor of urology. I've helped thousands of men just like women who still want to feel alive in their bodies, who want to keep their dignity, their desire, and their sexual well-being intact as they age. What I've seen over and over again is that most older men are doing something wrong. Not because they're broken or careless, but because no one ever told them what needs to change after 60. Here's the truth. Self-pleasure isn't just about feeling good anymore. It's about protecting your long-term health, and if you're doing it the wrong way, even with good intentions, you could be slowly training your body to shut down, not open up. But the good news is this can be fixed. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how. I'll walk you through 3 most dangerous mistakes men over 60 make when it comes to masturbation and how you can avoid them, and at the end, I'll give you a safe, doctor-approved method that could completely change how you experience pleasure, starting tonight. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to hit that button and turn on the bell so you won't miss any of the honest, age-specific health advice I create just for men like you. And if this message speaks to you, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0. Your feedback helps and make these conversations even more helpful. Let's begin with the first and most common mistake I see in men over 60, one that quietly chips away at your sensitivity and satisfaction over time. It's something almost everyone does, yet no one realizes how harmful it can be. Rushing. Mistake number 1. Mistake number 1. Rushing the experience. One of the most common things I hear from my patients, especially men over 60, is Doc Khera, I don't even enjoy it the way I used to. I just do it to get it over with. And every time I hear that, my heart sinks a little, because what they are really saying, whether they realize it or not, is that something deeply human has been reduced to a habit of stress and silence. You see, rushing is the first and often the most damaging mistake I see men make when it comes to self-pleasure in later life. And I want to be very clear, I'm not talking about frequency. I'm not here to judge how often you touch yourself. I'm talking about the way you do it, the mindset, the energy, the emotional state you bring to the experience. Over the years, I've worked with hundreds of men who admit they do it the same way every time, quick, quiet, and usually in a hurry. Sometimes, it's out of habit. Sometimes it's because they don't want to get caught, and other times it's because they're trying to push through a fog of numbness just to feel a little something before bed. But what most of them don't realize is that this rushed mechanical approach actually trains your body and brain to associate talk with tension, not with calm or pleasure. When you rush through masturbation, your nervous system doesn't relax, your blood vessels don't dilate the way they should, your breathing becomes shallow, your heart might be pounding but not in the good way. It's the kind of tight, anxious heartbeat that comes from buying an edge, not from being aroused in a safe, connected way. And here's what happens as a result. Your body starts to become less responsive. The nerves don't light up the way they used to. You may even start to feel a little sore afterward. Maybe you brush it off at first, just a little irritation, right? But over time, that tension builds up, that disconnection becomes normal. You find yourself needing more stimulation, but getting less satisfaction. I remember a gentleman in his late 60s came to me not long ago. He was a proud man, retired military, sharp dresser, very private. He sat in my office and told me he hadn't felt real pleasure in years. He said he still had the urge, but the feeling was gone. He felt like he was just going through the motions. And after a long conversation, it became clear he was rushing every time. No relaxation, no intention, no presence, just habit. And it was wearing him down more than he realized. What I told him is the same thing I want to tell you now. Your body is asking for something different. After 60, your nervous system needs more time to warm up. Your blood flow needs space to move, and your heart emotionally and physically needs to know it's safe. So slow down, not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know what you need has changed. Try giving yourself more than just 5 minutes in the dark. Create a small pocket of time where you're not waiting to be interrupted, where you're not fighting off stress or guilt, or that feeling of, I shouldn't be doing this. Take a few deep breaths, let your shoulders drop, and instead of treating your body like a machine you have to fix, Treat it like an old friend who deserves your full attention. And no, you don't need candles or music or some elaborate routine. This isn't about making it fancy, it's about making it real. It's about choosing to be present with your body just as it is today. Slower, softer, maybe more hesitant, but still very much alive. And that's the version of you that needs honoring. Now, when you give yourself the permission to slow down, something remarkable happens. The nerves begin to wake up again, the blood vessels open, you start to feel more, not less. And what once felt like a chore starts to feel like something nourishing again. A moment of calm, a moment of connection, a moment that reminds you you're still here, you still matter. But if rushing is the first way older men unknowingly sabotage their pleasure, the second mistake is something even more damaging to the body, and it often shows up silently without pain or warning until it's already taken its toll. Let's talk about that next. Mistake number two, using too much pressure. If there's one thing I wish more men in their 60s and 70s understood, it's this. Your body is not less, it's simply different. And the way it responds to touch today is not a failure, it's biology evolving, but unfortunately, most men haven't been told what to do with that change, so they compensate. They tighten their grip, they move faster, harder, with more force, hoping that the intensity will make up for the lack of feeling. And in doing so, they fall into one of the most damaging habits I see. Using too much pressure during self-stimulation. This might seem harmless. At first you tell yourself, I'm just trying to feel something, and maybe that worked for a while, but here's what's happening under the surface. Something most men never suspect. The penis is made of incredibly delicate tissues. It's not just skin. It's filled with tiny blood vessels, soft muscle fibers, and an intricate network of sensitive nerve endings that are designed to respond to gentle stimulation. When you repeatedly apply intense pressure, whether through a tight grip or aggressive motion, those tissues begin to break down. Nerve endings become less responsive, micro tears form in the skin, and over time, your body gets conditioned to only respond to that one very specific kind of stimulation, usually one that no partner could ever replicate. This is sometimes referred to informally as death grip syndrome, and while it's not an official diagnosis, it's a very real experience. I've had patients tell me with quiet frustration, I can only get aroused by my own hand. Or worse, I can't feel much of anything anymore. One man 72 said something to me that I'll never forget. He said, I thought I was keeping myself alive, but really, I was wearing myself out. The saddest part is, this isn't about lack of desire. Most of these men still want to feel pleasure. They still have a connection, but their body has been trained unintentionally to require friction that's too intense, too narrow, too damaging to sustain. And what once was a source of release slowly becomes a source of frustration, or worse, emotional withdrawal. I understand why it happens. When sensitivity declines, it's natural to feel more. But more pressure is not the answer. In fact, it only accelerates the loss. What your body is actually asking for is gentleness, patience, and a willingness to rediscover sensation in a new way. That takes time, and it takes a shift in mindset. Start by loosening your grip, even if it feels strange at first. I know that change isn't always easy. One of my patients compared it to trying to write with his non-dominant hand, but he stuck with it, and after a few weeks, something began to shift. He told me, Doc, it's not just that I feel more, it's that I care more. I'm finally present with myself. Using a natural fragrance-free lubricant can help as well. It reduces friction, protects the skin, and encourages a more fluid, relaxing motion. But the real change happens when you stop thinking about self-pleasure as something to accomplish, and start treating it as a form of care, as something you do for your body, not to it. Just like you wouldn't rub a sore shoulder aggressively, genitals need to be approached with that same kind of intentional softness. And if you're someone who's already experiencing reduced sensitivity, don't panic. The body is resilient. With time, gentler stimulation can retrain your nervous system to respond to more subtle touch. It might feel different, yes, but different doesn't mean worse. It might even feel more connected, more satisfying, more human. What I hope you take away from this is simple. Your body isn't asking for more force, it's asking for more care. And when you give it that, it remembers how to feel again. But the physical damage caused by excess pressure isn't the only sabotaging men's pleasure as they age. There's something even more powerful and even more overlooked. No tan the skin, not in the nerves, but in the heart and mind. And that's what we need to explore next. Mistake number 33, ignoring the emotional side. There's something I've noticed after 3 decades of working with men, and it's not something that shows up in blood tests or scans. It's quieter, heavier, but no less real. It's the emotional weight many men carry when it comes to their bodies, their pleasure, and their identity as sexual beings. And sadly, this is one of the most overlooked yet most powerful factors in so many men over 60 begin to feel disconnected, not just from sex, but from themselves. You see, we're raised in a culture where emotions and masculinity are often seen as opposing forces. Most men were never taught to connect pleasure with emotional safety. For years, maybe decades, you were expected to be strong, steady, and silent, and for many, that silence followed them into the most intimate parts of their lives. No one told you that how you feel about touching yourself actually affects how your body responds to it. I've spoken with men who feel ashamed just for still having the desire, others who feel guilt or confusion because their bodies don't respond like they used to. Some who were raised in households where masturbation was low-belled, dirty, or wrong. And even now at 65 or 70, they still carry the echo of that judgment. The mind may have moved on, but the body remembers, and it holds on. There's one man I worked with, late 60s, divorced, former engineer, who told Method he hadn't pleasured himself in nearly 10 years. Not because he didn't want to, but because every time he tried, he felt a kind of invisible wall, a discomfort he couldn't explain, not physical, emotional. He described it as like walking into a room I didn't feel welcome in anymore. And what he didn't realize was that the wall wasn't his body, it was his shame. When we began unpacking that gently and without judgment, everything started to shift. He wasn't broken, he wasn't done, he was simply carrying years of unspoken tension that had nowhere to go. Once we named it, honored it, and created space for it, something changed. His body started to respond again, not just physically, but emotionally. He began to enjoy himself, not as a task, but as a form of kindness. That's what I want you to hear right now, because the truth is, emotions don't disappear just because we ignore. They live in our breath, in our posture, in the way our blood flows. They show up in arousal, in sensitivity, in the ability to feel safe in your ouncy skin, and when we bury them, when we push them down year after year, they become part of the very tension that blocks us from pleasure. So what can you do? You start with compassion, with telling yourself, I didn't have to earn this moment, I don't have to be perfect, I just have to be honest. You remind yourself that pleasure is not something you outgrow, it's something you evolve with. And if there's fear, grief, or confusion along the way, that's okay. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you're human. And if the weight feels too heavy to carry alone, please talk to someone. Whether it's a doctor, a therapist, or even a trusted friend. Speaking out loud is not a weakness, it's a strength. Especially for men of your generation we're taught to keep it all inside. You deserve to be seen, you deserve to be heard, and you deserve to feel pleasure not just in your body but in your heart. You may be surprised by what happened to you. You give yourself permission to let go of shame and make room for curiosity. When you stop performing and start listening, because the truth is sometimes what your body is waiting for isn't a new technique. It's a new level of honesty, one that starts from the inside. Now, once you've stopped rushing, released the pressure, and begun to reconnect emotionally, the next step is learning how to build a safe and satisfying routine, one that isn't just physically gentle, but one that respects where you are in life and helps you feel more alive, not less. Let's talk about exactly how to do that next. Solution number 4, slow, gentle touch. Solution number 4, after we've unlearned the old habits, rushing, overgripping, and ignoring what's happening emotionally, it's to ask an important question. What does your body truly need now? Not what to want in your 20s, not what you wish it still responded to, but what it honestly craves today. And for most men over 60, the answer is simple and surprising. Slowness, softness, and presence. That's not always easy to accept. Many of us, especially men raised in an era where masculinity was tied to intensity and control, have a hard time embracing gentleness. We think being slow means we're weak, that needing tenderness makes us somehow less of a man. But I can tell you with certainty, it's the exact opposite. Gentle touch at this stage of life isn't a compromise. It's a return to wisdom. It's choosing to care for your body with the respect it's earned after carrying you through decades of living. One of my patients, a retired firefighter in his 70s, came to me with complaints of numbness and frustration. He was used to being in command of everything in his life, his schedule, his health, his body, but he admitted that his old way of pleasuring himself just didn't work anymore. It's like thin jeans running, he said, but the gears won't shift. He was trying harder, pushing more, and getting less. So, I asked him to do something radical. Slow down, loosen his grip, stop aiming for a finish line, just be with his body as it was, not how he remembered it. At first he said it felt awkward, like he was learning himself all over again. But slowly, things began to shift. Sensations came back, emotions rose to the surface. Some joy, some grief, and eventually pleasure followed. Not the explosive kind he'd been chasing, but something steadier, deeper. It felt like I was finally in the same room with myself, he told me, not just doing something to my body, but with it. That's the heart of slow, gentle touch. It's not about giving up pleasure, it's not about accessing it through a different doorway, one that takes you through patience, not pressure. Practically, this means using your hands more softly, varying the pace, exploring different parts of your body, not just the obvious zones, the inner thighs, the base of the shaft, the perineum. Areas that may have gone unnoticed for decades. They're still alive, still responsive, but they need to be invited in, not forced. Breathing matters here too. When you breathe deeply, slowly from the belly, your body gets the message. It's safe. Now, you're not in a rush, you're not in danger. You're here in this moment. That shifts your entire nervous system from fight or flight to rest and receive. And that's where real arousal begins. Not in friction, but in relaxation. You can also think of this practice like a physical therapy. If you had an injured knee or shoulder, you wouldn't pound on it. You'd rehab it slowly, gently over time. The same principle applies here. You're not just touching yourself for release. You're touching yourself to stay healthy, to stay connected, to keep your tissues and blood flow active. It's a kind of healing. I know for some men, especially those who've been disconnected for a while, this might feel unfamiliar or even uncomfortable at first. That's okay. You don't have to get it perfect. You just have to be willing to try. And if you stick with it, if you keep showing up with curiosity instead of pressure, you'll likely find that your body hasn't shut down at all. It's just been waiting for you to meet it where it is. This approach isn't about technique, it's about attitude, a mindset of kindness, of presence, of letting go of performance, and rediscovering what it means to simply enjoy being in your skin again. And when you do that, something opens up, something deeper than just sensation, something that feels like home. Now, once you begin practicing this slower, more intentional way of connecting with yourself, the next step is just as vital. But it happens at a different level. It's not about how you move or where you touch. It's about how you feel while you're doing it, and whether you allow your whole self, mind, body, and heart to be part of the experience. Let's go there. Next, solution number 5. Stay emotionally. Solution number 5. Present. I can't tell you how many times I've sat across from a man in his 60s or 70s, strong, accomplished, thoughtful, who quietly admits that he doesn't feel connected to his body anymore. Not in the way he used to, not even when he tries. He'll say something like, I go through the motions, but it's like I'm not even there, or, I don't know what I'm supposed to feel anymore. And every time I hear that, I recognize the pain behind those words, not physical pain, but emotional distance. The kind that grows over years silently when we've been told that sex should be purely physical and that emotions are a distraction, or worse, a weakness. But here's the truth, and I say this not just as a urologist, but as a man. Your emotions are not separate from your body. They're not in the way, they're a part of the way. If you're not emotionally present during self-pleasure, your body will know, your nervous system will know, and most importantly, your heart will know. Without emotional presence, even the most careful touch can feel empty. You may still climax, yes, but it will leave you feeling unsatisfied, maybe even a little lonely. And that loneliness doesn't come from age, it comes from I once worked with a man in his early 70s. He had been married for over 40 years, widowed for 5, and hadn't touched himself since his wife passed. Not because he didn't feel desire, but because he said it just didn't feel right. He had tried a few times, but always stopped halfway. I'd feel guilty, he said, sad, almost like I was betraying something. He wasn't broken, he was grieving. His body wanted comfort, but his heart hadn't been invited to the conversation. That's what I mean. When I say stay emotionally present, this is not about turning every moment of pleasure into therapy. It's about creating space for honesty, for gentleness, for the parts of you that maybe haven't had a voice in years. And that starts with permission. Giving yourself the freedom to feel whatever comes up without judgment. You might feel awkward, you might feel longing, you might even feel grief for the man you once were, or the intimacy you've lost. Let all of that be welcome. Don't push it away. Don't try to numb it with speed or force. Just breathe with it. Be with it. Because inside those feelings is something very real. Your aliveness, your capacity to connect, your ability to feel deeply even now. So how do you do that? You start by slowing down, not just physically, but mentally. You give yourself permission. Be there fully without distractions. That means no television on in the background, no checking your phone, no racing to finish. You're not multitasking, you're connecting. Bring your awareness to your breath. Notice the sensations in your body, but also what emotions rise as you touch yourself. And instead of shutting those feelings down, try softening into them. Ask yourself, not how do I finish, but how do I feel? Some men find it helpful to speak kindly to themselves during the experience. Others listen to calming music or simply sit in stillness for a few moments before beginning. There's no right or wrong way to feel emotionally present. The key is to treat your body like a whole person, not just a set of parts, because the truth is the heart and the body are always in conversation. The more we include both, the more meaningful the experience becomes. And if you're someone who has trouble feeling anything at all right now, emotionally or physically, please don't lose hope. That numbness is often a sign that something inside is waiting to be reawakened. Not that it's gone for good. You haven't missed your chance. You haven't run out of time. You just need to reconnect step by step without shame. As you begin to integrate this emotional presence into your practice, you may start to notice something profound. The experience becomes less about release and more about relationship with yourself, with your past, with your evolving identity. And when that happens, even the simplest touch can feel like coming home. Now, once this emotional foundation is in place, the final piece is learning how to recognize and respond to your body's signals, the subtle cues that something may be off, or that you need to adjust your approach for your health and safety. And that's exactly where we're headed next. Solution number 6. Watch for warning. Solution number 6. Signs. There's a moment I often think about from one of my earlier years in practice. I was speaking with a man in his mid-60s who had come in for a routine checkup. As we talked, he hesitated for a moment, then quietly said, "Doc, I've noticed a bit of soreness down there after He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. I knew exactly what he meant. And more importantly, I knew how much courage it took for him to bring it up. That conversation stuck with me because it reminded me how easy it is for men, especially older men, to ignore subtle signals from their bodies. We're taught to push through pain, to shrug off discomfort, to keep going no matter what. But when it comes to something as intimate and sensitive as your sexual health, silence can come at a cost. Your body is always trying to communicate with you. The question is, are you listening? As we age, the tissues in and around the penis become more delicate. Circulation may slow, nerve sensitivity can change, skin becomes thinner, and even minor irritation, if left unnoticed, can turn into chronic discomfort or bigger health issues. But so many men assume that unless something's bleeding or broken, it's not serious. That's simply not true. I want to say this clearly. Pain, soreness, numbness, swelling, irritation, or even subtle changes in how your body responds. These are all signs that deserve attention. They're not signs of weakness. They're signs of awareness. They are your body's way of saying, please take care of me differently. I once treated a man who had been using the same self-pleasure routine for decades. He thought he was just getting older and that the growing discomfort was inevitable. But when we examined him, we found minor inflammation and skin irritation that had gone unchecked for months. Thankfully, we caught it early. With a few adjustments, switching to a gentle lubricant, changing his technique, taking breaks, and giving Thetasu time to rest, he made a full recovery, but it could have easily gone the other way if he'd waited. So, how can you stay ahead of these kinds of issues? Start by simply checking in with your body after every session. How do you feel, not just mentally, but physically? Are there any areas that feel tender, overly sensitive, or unusually numb? Is there any redness, swelling, or a lingering ache that wasn't there before? Don't dismiss those things. They're not just part of aging, they're messages. Make it a habit to examine yourself once a week. Gently check the skin around your genitals. Look for any changes in color, texture, or sensitivity. Notice whether there's any tightness or dryness, and most importantly, trust your instincts. If something feels different, don't brush it off. Bring it to your doctor. That one conversation could save you from months or even years of discomfort. And let's talk briefly about your prostate. If you're over 60, this gland becomes increasingly important to monitor. Frequent urination, weak flow, discomfort in the pelvic area, or pain during or after orgasm. These could be signs of an enlarged prostate or other underlying issues. Don't wait until it becomes unbearable. Regular checkups, especially with a urologist who understands the unique needs of older men, are one of the most powerful ways you can protect your long-term health. I found that when men begin treating masturbation, not as a secretive act, but as part of their overall wellness routine, everything shifts. It's no longer about avoiding shame, it becomes about honoring the body that's still carrying them through life. And when you approach your body with that kind of care and curiosity, the rewards go far beyond physical sensation. They reach into your confidence, your sense of dignity, your peace of mind. So listen to your body, trust its signals, and know that asking for help or adjusting your routine isn't admitting defeat. It's choosing wisdom over wear. It's choosing longevity over habit. Now that we've explored the mistakes to avoid and the solutions that can transform how you relate to your body, there's just one thing left to say. Something I tell every man who walks into my office, especially the ones who've begun to doubt themselves, and it might be the most important truth of all. Let's talk about that in the closing. Conclusion. You're not broken, you're evolving. If there's one message I hope stays with you, it's this. Your body is not failing you. It's simply asking for something different. The old ways may no longer serve you, not because you're broken or past your prime, but because you've entered a new season of life. And that season deserves just as much care, intention, and dignity as any other. We've talked about the importance of slowing down, of softening your approach, of releasing the pressure, both physical and emotional. We've explored how critical it is to stay connected, not just to your body, but to your heart. And we've seen how vital it is to listen, to really listen to the subtle signals your body gives. Gulp for discomfort turns into disconnection. I've worked with thousands of men over the years, and what I can tell you with absolute certainty is that it's never too late to reconnect, to feel again, to enjoy again, to honor this chapter of your life, not as a decline, but as one that calls for gentler hands, a more open heart, and a deeper kind of strength. The strength to stay present, curious, and kind to yourself. So the next time you reach for yourself, don't do it out of habit, do it out of respect. Because you're still here, you still matter. And you still deserve to feel good in your own skin.